Go ahead.
Hi and welcome, students. Welcome to the question and answer session for the chair of the Law Student Division for the upcoming year. My name is Nguyen Movahed. I'm the current chair for the Law Student Division for the 2018 to 2019 year. Today we'll be talking to two candidates who are running for chair. Also, my cat has decided to join us in the background as usual. This particular Q&A will discuss qualifications for our chair candidates, as well as what their plans are for the upcoming year. SBA presidents, ABA reps, and law student division liaisons are eligible to vote. And the voting will, for this position and for the remaining 6 positions, will be on April 5th, starting April 5th. So be sure to check out your email for the electronic ballot. Visit abaforlawstudents.com/elections to see candidate resumes and position statements. And I'll discuss a little bit about the format of the Q&A for both our candidates and for the rest of you watching. So it should last no longer than 30 minutes. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to give us an opening statement, introducing yourself and giving brief remarks. After that, we'll ask you a series of questions that we pulled from members of the council and our assembly. And each candidate will have a chance to answer these questions. Please limit your response to 1 minute. If it goes over a minute, I'll be sure to indicate that off screen with a wave. Your leftover time does not carry over, and I'll be keeping the time for that. If a candidate mentions another candidate, that candidate will be able to respond, and we've randomly selected who will go first, and we'll alternate questions hereafter after that one. And at the very end, we'll have a 1-minute closing statement. So with that, we will proceed to opening statements, and Ashley Baker will be going first.
Hello, my name is Ashley Baker. I am a 2L at Southern University Law Center. I am also the Delegate of Communications, Publications, and Outreach for the Law Student Division, and I'm running to be your next chair. My goals, if I'm elected, is to increase law student presence within the greater ABA and also to assist law students in finding opportunities to get involved with the ABA. I feel that the position of chair is one where the holder shouldn't take a position initially on different social issues that they want to be involved with. I believe that the council is a team, and as such, we will all come to the table with amazing ideas. But just a little bit about me, I have advocated for different issues such as sexual assault awareness, mental health, LGBT issues, cultural competency, gender-based discrimination, and the like. So that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Now we'll move to John Nguyen.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I know you're all busy law students, so you can find the time to tune in. It's greatly appreciated. My name is Johnnie Nguyen. I'm a first generation at the University of Colorado Law School. And I went to law school with a very strong sense of public service because growing up as a first generation student, I didn't see very many Asian Americans being involved in law or politics. And with that lack of diversity there, I remember growing up not knowing what I wanted to do because all the professions that was seemed as impressive or out there was not representative of my face. And what kind of drove me there was, what drove me to go to law school was to increase that representation because I really believe in opening doors for others through that representation. Just recently in media, you see Black Panther, and we finally have African-American superheroes, which I think is it's a very good progress, but there's a lot more work needed to be done. My goals after law school is I want to enter criminal justice. I think it's a huge area that needs a lot of reform right now, and a lot of my background and coming of age experiences, I feel like could add to that conversation of how that reform should be led. With all that, I do have a platform and a lot of goals, but I hope to address those later in this Q&A. So thank you for tuning in.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll jump right into questions. First, I'd like for both of you to discuss your leadership positions and why you are qualified to be chair of the Law Student Division. So we'll start again with Ashley.
Okay, so as I said before, I am currently the delegate of communications for our division. I believe that I bring a lot of experience to the table. As delegate of communications, my main goal was to provide law students a platform where they can tell their stories, share their experiences, and really just give inspiration to other law students. Law school is hard. Law school is not for the faint of heart. And wherever we can derive some inspiration, that's always a good thing. So in this position, I've also learned about issues that affect law students. And I believe that I'm going to take what I've learned and be a great advocate for law students. Also, I've been writing a resolution for the House of Delegates. So the ABA is a huge. Can I finish my statement?
Absolutely. We're just running out 1 minute.
Okay, the ABA is a huge entity, and I think that I have the experience of navigating the entity, and that is my experience.
Great. Thank you, Ashley. And now move to Johnnie.
Awesome. So the question was what my leadership experience was, am I correct?
Yes. And what makes you qualified to be chair of the division?
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. Well, first, I think a lot of my leadership experience, I'll just list a few just off to start. First, I was a legislative aide and the chief of staff in the Colorado House of Representatives, where I worked with my legislator to pass a lot of progressive bills, especially one that removed menstrual taxes on a lot of women's menstrual products because it's a very sexist taxation. We've worked on bills that curtailed the school to prison pipelines, such as banning corporal punishment on students, as well as integrating diverse education as a mandatory, because any diverse education should be minimized as an elective. I've been a teacher for the Colorado I Have a Dream Foundation, and what this nonprofit does is that they work to put students on a pipeline, serve underserved students on a pipeline towards college. I've been a lobby leader for Population Connection, which is a nonprofit that advocates for funding for international women's rights issues. I've been a student government senator at my undergrad, and now at Colorado Law, I serve as my class president, where I was elected 2 weeks in. Let's see, what other experience I have. I have been a CU student advocate for the University of Colorado. What that is I sit in on meetings with the Board of Governors for the University of Colorado, and my work has been recognized where I've been awarded the President's Diversity Award and the CU Student Advocate of the Year Award. In a combination of all of this, I feel like it makes me very qualified to be chair because I've worked in every facet from city, state to federal politics to really push things to get done, and things did get done. There are laws out there right now that I contributed in. So I hope that answers the question.
Great. Thank you both so much. So now we'll move a little bit towards ABA at large and policies. So what is an area of innovation beyond policy initiatives that you think that the ABA Law Student Division should look into? So we started with Ashley for the last two, so we'll start with Johnnie for this one.
Perfect. Thank you so much. As I was reading much on the ABA, and admittedly when I first ran for this position, I was looking at the ABA. There's so many things I wasn't even aware about with the ABA. But as I looked through the website, I was very inspired by the current work that was done, but it also sparked a lot of ideas for me on what I want to take initiative on. I found an old article on the ABA website that addresses the current environmental issues with attorneys. And attorneys waste a lot of paper, and I think it's become more of a norm that we just print and dispose paper, and I think we really want to change that. And second, I was looking at the work of the Women's Division inside of the American Bar Association. A huge part that they're addressing is sexual harassment, and while I don't want to minimize the work that they're doing, I want to further expand that work and creating a whole new division specifically targeted around sexual harassment. And I think sexual harassment, we could address it on its own, but I want to see substantive action that really makes a difference there. And it shouldn't just be on women alone to lead that initiative and that project. It should be on all of us to address it unapologetically. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Johnny. With that, we'll move to Ashley.
Could you repeat the question for me? Is that?
Absolutely. What is an area of innovation beyond policy initiatives that you think the ABA Law Student Division should look into?
Okay. So as Johnny mentioned, law students generally don't know what the ABA does really. They have some general idea that, the ABA regulates law schools and things like that, but there are so many other opportunities and entities of the ABA. So what I would do is increase law student exposure to the ABA. The first thing would be to get an Instagram page for our division. Our generation, we're on Instagram. We're hardly on Facebook. We like pictures, we like videos. I also want to get local ABA attorneys into law schools to talk to students about different practice areas and what the ABA does, what the different divisions and the different sections do. I think that exposure is the first thing that we need.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now we're going to move back into chair stuff. So the chair of the Law Student Division sets the agenda for the division for the year. And we discussed a little bit about policy ideas, but what will your agenda be and why did you choose those policies and initiatives? I think this question's a little bit longer, so we'll have 2 minutes to answer instead of 1. So because we started with Johnny last time, we'll move back to Ashley.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, I don't have a specific policy agenda. Coming into my role as delegate of communications, our council had so many ideas, and there are so many good ideas. I've read the resumes and statements of the current applicants for the next council, and I anticipate that they're going to have great ideas too. As chair, I'm not the head. I would be the head of the law student division, but I don't speak for the law student division. The law students speak, and I do what they need me to do. So my ideas are jobs, opportunities, scholarships, fellowships, things that the ABA can provide to law students. The main law student concern that every law student has is, how do I navigate law school and how do I find a job once I get out? And I think if the ABA can help with that, if the law student division can help with that, that would be my main goal, is to figure out how can we best help law students navigate law school and find a job. So that's my platform.
Great, thank you, Ashley. It's the same question for you, Johnny.
Thank you. My approach as chair, I actually do have some policy plans that I want to bring that are very specific. First, I think diversity and inclusion can be kind of a buzzword, and a lot of times, especially in the legal profession, we talk about wanting to increase diversity and inclusion, but there's not a lot of substance, and a lot of times it's done just for a statistical measure, just to say, hey, we have people of color at this firm. I want to further enhance that by actually reaching out, starting in high school, because I think a lot of times high school students need the exposure to it in order to get diversity into the legal profession. I would start there. I would target specific high schools, especially low-income high schools, to explain to them what the legal profession is and actually inspire them to join the legal workforce. Another issue I want to address as a policy matter is environmentally conscious efforts. I would lobby the ABA on passing policies that encourage firms to specifically, like, literally brag about their environmental efforts. We all know about the LEEDS efforts that a lot of businesses are taking on. I personally don't eat at restaurants who are not LEED certified unless they're small local mom and pop shops. If they're a big corporate chain, I think they need to follow the LEED certification, and I think we could encourage firms to kind of follow that as well. Again, I talked about sexual harassment. I want to create a whole new division specifically talking about sexual harassment because it should be on all of us, not just women. I want to increase voter turnout and election participation. And what I do there is actually change the election policy to increase the amount of votes, specifically add a whole new column for the voter outreach to add phone numbers, because I think candidates who really want to work hard and win this spot, they should be able to call the voters. And there's a lot of other issues that I want to address, but I'll heed for matters of time. Thank you.
Thank you both. All right. Your next question, excuse me, is, so as chair of the Law Student Division, it's your job to be a voice for students to the larger ABA. So describe a time when you used your voice to advocate for a group or for somebody. Sorry, we'll start with Johnnie for this one.
So the question is, share a time when I use my voice?
Yes.
Awesome, sure. I am very involved in local politics as a community organizer from the grassroots all the way to a political insider as the former chief of staff in the state legislature. And personally, again, as I told in my opening statement, I did not see a lot of Asian Americans involved in politics. So one way I used my voice as a grassroots activist and an insider politico was that I ran a statewide initiative in Colorado to create an Asian American caucus, which further specifically engages Asian Americans who were very unlikely represented in politics to get engaged. And how we did this was we created internship programs. We created scholarship opportunities for students to travel, because I think traveling really gives students a lot of exposure. Let's see, I've talked to elected leaders to go visit specific diversity programs to talk to them about the importance of being engaged in politics and participating in your civic duty. That's where I've used my voice. I've been very proud of and seen good results.
Great, thank you very much. With that, we'll turn to Ashley.
Okay. Can you repeat the question one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem. The question is, as chair, it's your job to be a voice for students to the larger ABA. Describe a time when you used your voice to advocate for a group or for somebody else.
I've actually advocated for law students with the greater ABA. This past mid-year meeting in January, there was a resolution from legal education, resolution 316, standard 316, which would affect law school accreditation and would adversely affect minority students, the enrollment of minority students at law schools, as well as HBCU law schools. So I advocated for that within our Law Student Division Council. I advocated against the change with the Georgia delegation, and also among the SBA presidents and the assembly.
Great, thank you both so much. The next question is, the chair is the leader of the division council and the division assembly. How would you describe your leadership style? We'll start with Ashley for this one.
I think that my leadership style is very inclusive. I like to hear everyone's ideas, and I think that while I have my own great ideas, other people's ideas are just as valid and are just as good. And like I said before, the Law Student Division, the leadership is the council, and I would give equal opportunity to everyone's ideas. I believe that's the kind of leader that I am. I'm also a person that likes to see people treated fairly. And I would also advocate for people to not only be comfortable expressing their ideas, but to also have everyone be heard. And I think that's very important as a leader, to have that ability to relate to people, as well as be inclusive.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll move to Johnnie.
Thank you for that question. I think that's a very important question to address. First, I actually, in my leadership roles, I like to start my meetings or just kind of my leadership style with actually a joke. And I share a joke because I think it lightens the mood. Sometimes we've had meetings at 6 a.m. And just starting the joke, starting it off on the right bat, I think is really important. And I also believe humor has a good place in politics and the law. Second, I think my leadership style is to build relationships with everybody in my that I'm leading. And by building relationships, it means taking the time to get to know them, their story. I think everybody on this earth has a story. Everybody has their own sense of accomplishments, insecurities, and every upbringing. And to take the time to get to know everybody really lets you succeed in getting the job done because you enjoy and you know who you're working with. And in taking the time to get to know people, I don't mean that in the networking manner. I don't believe in networking. I believe in building genuine relationships and having a strong sense of emotional intelligence to do that. So,
Fantastic. Thank you both. Next, what do you think was the most valuable or significant issue that the ABA Law Student Division had this past year, and why? So because we started with Ashley at the last question, we'll start with Johnnie for this one.
I think a really big significant issue would be around mental health and wellness. While I'm very grateful to have the leadership positions I've had while in law school. There's been a lot of great experiences, but some of the biggest issues I think, or some of the biggest downsides of that was when students have personally reached out to me and opened up about a lot of their mental health issues. And sometimes it's been issues that have not been easy to talk about. I know students who've had such a rough year where they've considered taking their own life and they've exhausted all the resources at the school. And that's the biggest issue right now that is very invisible and needs to be specifically addressed, where that means putting more funding into schools. And actually Colorado Law is one of the first law schools in the nation that has implemented a personal counselor specifically for law students. And this counselor has a background in the law and understands the issues. I would push a policy that would encourage all ABA accredited law schools, actually all law schools, not even ABA accredited law schools, to put counselors in the law schools, because I think it can make a dramatic difference. And if you could save one law student's life for that, I think it's worth it.
Great, thank you. We'll turn to Ashley.
I think the most important issue that we've addressed is diversity. Diversity in law schools and diversity within the legal profession. Only 4.4% of all U.S. attorneys are Black. Only 5.6% are Hispanic, and 2.5% LGBT. I feel like that is the most pressing issue for the legal community and for law schools and law students. And I think the way that we addressed Standard 316, as I previously mentioned, that's the most important thing that we've done this year, in my view.
Great. Thank you both so much. Next question is, what kind of research did you do about the role that you're pursuing? Did you speak with anyone who currently holds the position, which would have been me, or has previously held the office that you seek? And why are you best suited for the role? So we'll start with Ashley.
Well, I have spoken to you, Nguyen. I've also spoken to Thomas Kim, the immediate past chair. I think that working on the present council, having the experience of working with the council and with the present chair, makes me the most qualified for this position. Like I mentioned before, the ABA is a vast entity, and it takes some prior knowledge to navigate that and to get things done. I think it's one thing to have a lot of great ideas, but if you haven't had the experience of navigating the greater ABA and networking with people from the different entities, it may be challenging. I wouldn't say impossible, but it may be challenging to get things done.
Thank you very much, and we'll move to Johnnie.
As to the question of who I've reached out to, I have made multiple attempts to reach out to the prior chair, but unfortunately she is doing a lot of great things and has been very occupied. However, to make up for that, I spent a lot of hours up late at night reading up on the ABA's website and reading up on the ABA Law Student Division Chair. I spent hours watching the last year's forum for the ABA chair to see what projects have been done. I spent a lot of time looking at prior statements and whatnot, and actually listening in on a lot of podcasts and whatnot to see what issues that the ABA is addressing. That's what I felt like was the most I could do if I was not able to be in touch with the former chair. I've talked to others who are running to see what kind of ideas that they're talking about and how they're campaigning, because I think collectively we're trying to advocate for a lot of the similar issues. I want to be very open, genuine, and transparent in saying that I don't have a lot of experience with the ABA, but I do have a lot of experience with the Denver Bar Association, Colorado Bar Association, Asia Pacific American Bar Association, and the LGBT Bar Association, and that is why I want to get engaged with the ABA.
That was awesome. Thank you for trying to stay under the minute. And I totally threw myself under the bus for this question, but thank you for that. And I apologize for not being able to meet with you. It's not for a lack of you reaching out. It's definitely my psycho schedule. All right. As you're aware, the Law Student Division offers a set of premium benefits for students who pay $25 per year. Do you have any ideas for additional premium benefits and how to increase membership? So we'll start with Johnnie for this one.
My position on this may be unpopular with those who are working right now at the ABA, but I personally would encourage fundraising to decrease the cost of that membership or to subsidize that cost of the membership, because I think law students right now are already, a lot of them are already going to 6 figures of debt. And if they're not aware of what the ABA rate does, there's a lacking incentive for them to pay money to join. I think that's a big issue, and by no means do I want to diminish that at $25 at all, but I do want to look into subsidizing that, or just to get more students to enter. And as for, I don't think just being more active for ABA social media is enough. I would personally reach out to all ABA law schools in making it mandatory during orientation to have an ABA rep speak about what the ABA does, about how to get engaged. And if the finance is a barrier, I would kind of further express about how there's ways to subsidize that price and really shine on the benefits that the ABA can bring students.
Great, thank you so much. We'll move to Ashley.
I think the best way that we can get an increase in membership is to show how the ABA provides value to law students. Like I mentioned before, there are tons of different entities in the ABA. One such entity is TIPS, the Tort Trial and Insurance Practice Section. All of the entities have conferences and different events around the country. And if law students had access to those events, they would immediately see the benefit of being a member or being a premium member. For example, TIPS, they have a scholarship program. I was a recipient of one of the scholarships and was able to attend one of the conferences. As chair, I would advocate for other entities to provide the same types of scholarships so that students from around the country can attend these events and they can see the value that the ABA has. That alone would increase membership. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you both. So we're coming up towards our 30-minute mark. So we'll do a closing question and then we'll do closing statements. So personally, closing questions are my favorite. So I picked my favorite out of this list. And if you were a city, which city would you be and why? And we'll start with Ashley for this.
I would be the Windy City. And not just because that's where the ABA is headquartered. I love Chicago. I've been there a couple times over the past year. I just love it. Like it's magical. But yeah, I would be Chicago.
Great. And Johnnie?
This is I've never been asked this question before. I have to be a little cliche, and I would have to say Washington D.C. And why the city for me is because it changed my life. Being a first generation student, I never was able to fly anywhere. Not just mostly because of finances. I don't go into the weeds of that, but when the first time I ever went to D.C., it completely opened my eyes. There's complete diversity there. And while people have their cynicism about the politics in D.C. and why it's this horrible swamp, I fully disagree with that. I think it's a place where people bring national questions to ask, and they're seeking answers right now to help everybody, whether they disagree in politics or not. They're genuinely there to ask these global questions. And I think that's going to exhibit a lot with what us as future lawyers are going to be, is we're going to be at the course. We're going to be presenting and defending people, asking these questions, and really making a huge difference that I think DC exhibits.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much. So we're reaching the end of our Q&A, and we'll move to closing statements. And because Ashley did the opening statement, we'll do Johnnie starting with the closing statement. So please give us a 1-minute pitch about why you should be the new chair of the Law Student Division, and any platforms that you didn't get to touch on during the Q&A, please bring those up in your closing.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for tuning in. If you need to reach out to me, it's at 303-931-4385. That's my personal cell phone. Feel free to text and call. Why I'm running for this position, it's because I think it's a lot of inspiration for my parents. My parents were Vietnam War refugees. They left here after the war because they wanted to have a better life for me and my sisters. And what that better life is educational opportunities. And I have had the privilege of being born in the United States, and I've maximized that privilege for myself. And just to be in law school as a first generation student, there's not a day that I'm grateful for that. I'm not grateful for that. And that's why I'm running. I want to keep it very short and sweet. And it's just that I want to kind of share that privilege with a lot of people. I want to maximize that for everybody, because not everybody is afforded the same opportunities as me. My favorite thing that I've done as a law student is actually help students apply to law school once I've gotten in. People have seen me as a role model now, and I want to be able to open doors for people, invite them in, and then empower them to speak and represent people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll move to Ashley.
Well, I want to be your next chair because I am very passionate about law student issues as well as the ABA. There are days when the ABA is all I can talk about. I'm just very passionate about it. It's been a privilege and an honor to serve as the delegate of communications, and I would love to be your next chair. And I would love for every law student across the country to see the benefit that I see in the ABA for law students. One thing that I didn't mention was mentorship. As we try to navigate law school and find jobs, our division, we currently have a mentorship program. You can find it under the Career Resources tab of ABA for law students. And I would revitalize that, because if you type in my state, you don't find any attorneys. I want you to type in any state and find attorneys in your area.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much for taking the time to prepare for this Q&A. And thank you to every student who's watching the Q&A. We really appreciate you taking the time to be an informed voter. Please stay tuned and check your inboxes on April 5th for the voting link. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to the candidates or reach out to myself. Visit abaforlawstudents.com/elections to look up any information regarding any candidate, their statement, their resume, and make sure to be an informed voter come April 5th. Thank you all again so much, and have a great night.